Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was raised in Otogakure? Naruto times Tayuya times Karen times Anko times Gurren times Kin times Yugao times FemHaku, the Serpent Mega-Harem Rebellion Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto Uzumaki ran through the night-shrouded streets of Konohagakure as he was being chased by a mob of villagers. They were yet again out to hurt the innocent boy. He was only 8 years old. This looked horrible. He continued to run and suddenly tripped and fell to the ground. Kill the demon. One villager called out as they picked up a stick. The mob walked forward and was prepared to bring the large stick down on Naruto's head. Yet they were frozen in fear as they felt an intense killing intent. Leave him alone. You people are sickening. He is an innocent little boy, not the demon you people seem to think he is, came a raspy voice. When the villagers looked up they saw him, the infamous S-class Nuke Nin. Orochimaru. But I think I will kill you fools. Kusanagi no Tsurugi, Ku no Tachi. Orochimaru opened his mouth and slowly a snake slithered out of his mouth and regurgitated the sword of Kusanagi. Orochimaru then took the sword in hand and quickly dispatched the villagers. Their slaughtered bodies littered the ground. He then summoned the snake from his mouth and returned the sword to the snake, as it retreated back into his belly. Don't hurt me. I didn't do anything. Naruto cried out as he backed away from Orochimaru feeling frightened of the man. Do you hate this village? Do you hate what they do to you? Orochimaru's raspy voice rang out as he knelt beside Naruto. He smirked. I was like you once. This village is unkind to those that are different. If you would like I will take you to a village where you will be accepted. Accepted? Was the boy's reply. Yes, in the hidden village of Sound. This village once feared me. They didn't like the fact I was so intelligent. They were threatened by me, so I left. Under my tutelage you shall become a greater ninja than you could in this judgmental village. The rasping voice of the snake Sanin continued. He leaned down and rubbed the boy's head. This village hates you but you will be accepted in my village. I'll come with you, mister. If it means I won't always be hurt for being different. Naruto stood to his feet slowly, and looked up at the man. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, mister. Say goodbye to this god-forsaken cesspool. Consider yourself fortunate for today you start your training under Orochimaru of the legendary 3. He took the boy by the hand and walked off, disappearing with him in the shadows of the night. 4 years later, in Otogakure Naruto had truly advanced from the change of environment. He wasn't a monster here, he was considered unique. He wasn't a monster, nor was he a demon, he was simply Naruto Uzumaki, of the village hidden in the Sound. Naruto had changed much over the years. He wore robes that were very similar to Kimimara's. These were of course common for those that Orochimaru favored. He carried a sitar on his back, which was his medium for using sound as a weapon. His hite was tied around his forehead in a crooked manner slightly to the left. His hair had miraculously remained the same short, unruly spiky hair. On the side of his head slightly slanted resting at the ready was a kitsune mask. If he needed he would wear the mask over his face to conceal his identity. Naruto had been called to see Orochimaru. He didn't stop for anything because when Orochimaru called you arrived. Just then Naruto had walked into the one person he had been trying to avoid, Tayuya, the most volatile of the Sound 4. Here it comes, was the only thought that Naruto mustered as he braced for her to hit him over the head with her flute. You moron. Watch where you're walking. Then like that, crack. Naruto rubbed his head. Of all the girls in Otogakure Tayuya was the most violent. The only other girl in the village Naruto really talked to was Kintsuchi. If he talked to Tayuya it was by accident, the two never really got along. Mostly cause Tayuya assumed he was copying her by having a musical instrument. You ran around the corner and ran into me. Naruto may have been a genius of Odo, but still he was a bit brash, but that was mostly around Tayuya. It seemed as if the foul-mouthed Tayuya cussed more than usual when Naruto was around, and she seemed to hit him a lot. It was rumored that Tayuya really was infatuated with Naruto, since they say, "You always hurt the ones you love," and judging from the amount of bodily harm she had done to Naruto, they must be engaged. Naruto-kun, Tayuya-chan, do you two not have a meeting with Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto Yakushi calmly said as he stepped out of the shadows, adjusting his glasses as he chuckled lightly from the start of an argument between Naruto and Tayuya. Keep fighting like that and people will think you're a couple. At this, Naruto and Tayuya both blushed. The two of them were prone to arguing, but it was usually simple misunderstandings. Kabuto only chuckled as he opened the doors to Orochimaru's chambers. The two slowly entered the room and knelt before Orochimaru. Kukuku, another lover's quarrel. Orochimaru smirked in his unique snaky way. There was never a dull moment with Naruto and Tayuya around, especially when they argued. There is a young lady, in the land of waves, I would like for you two to retrieve for me. She possesses a rare bloodline limit, you two are to retrieve her at all costs. I am sending you along with one more, see to it you do not fail me. The snake Sanin looked at them with a cold gaze. Kabuto-sensei, who shall be our third team member? Naruto asked calmly as he looked up quietly. He saw Kabuto motion for someone to enter the room. Naruto's eyes widened. The dark hair, and the sensual shapes, it was only one person Naruto could think of. Kintsuchi. Just his luck he was on a team with two of the most beautiful and violent women of Otogakure. Prepare to leave within 2 hours. You are dismissed. Once Kabuto was finished, the three genin nodded their heads solemnly and with reverence and stood walking to the exit. Naruto-kun, please stay a moment, I need to tell you something, the snake Sanin rasped out. Hi, Orochimaru-sama. The boy responded and returned to a kneeling position in front of the snake Sanin. Naruto, I think you are old enough to know why the cesspool hated you so, the snake began. He gave a fatherly look to Naruto, as fatherly as one could give with snake-like eyes. When he saw the boy nod, he smirked diabolically. Almost 13 years ago, the village of Konoha was attacked by the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and many ninja died trying to stop it. What they tell the children is the Yondaime Hokage, Arashi Uzumaki, gave his life to stop the demon. In truth, he used a powerful jutsu to seal the fox away, in the body of a child who had just had his umbilical cord cut. Now the Hokage, being a man of morals, had felt this burden should only fall on his child. He had asked that the village treat this child as a hero, but no, they only saw the demon trapped inside the boy. That boy was you, Naruto-kun. The village refused to honor their savior's request to honor his son as a savior. No, they tried to kill you every day of your life. They felt you were a curse on their village. They wanted you dead for something you couldn't control. But do not worry, Naruto-kun. You shall have your chance to teach them the hubris of their ways. The snake finished and he looked upon the shocked face of Naruto with pleasure. This would be enough to guarantee the boy's allegiance for as long as he needed it. Hi Orochimaru-sama, was all the boy had managed to say, as the shock was too much for him to take in all at once. Go, your team is waiting for you. Kabuto coldly stated, and watched as Naruto exited the chamber. Once the chamber doors were closed for a second time, Kabuto pushed his glasses up and smiled darkly. What do you think, Orochimaru-sama? Is he ready? Kabuto turned to look at Orochimaru, who was deep in thought. But of course, I taught the boy well, I molded him into the finest Jinchuriki ninja. Of course he is ready, Kukuku. When the Chunin exams come, that's when everything will reach its apex. After all, they are all but pawns, and he, albeit a valuable pawn, is not but a pawn. The cruel rasping voice broke into a dark laugh as his serpentine eyes became aglow with ambition. 2 weeks later, Naruto muttered silently to himself as he tried to tolerate the two girls he was traveling with. Mostly because Tayuya and Kin were possibly the most hostile girls he knew. Of all the people he could have been teamed with, the foul-mouthed Tayuya of the Sound 4, and his former classmate Kin. Naruto then saw a squad of Konoha ninja, a tall cycloptic Jonin who could only be identified as the copy Nin, Kakashi Hatake, and his genin team, all the same age as Naruto, a loud-mouthed blonde girl, a pink-haired girl who seemed like she spent more time worrying about her looks, and a raven-haired young boy, who simply looked like someone shit in his Cheerios. Konoha Nin, we'd better take cover. Naruto was quick to issue this command as he took sight of a squad of 4 Konoha ninja. He then shot Tayuya a look that said, "Don't argue with me," and with that they all took cover. "What the deal, shithead? It's not like they will notice us?" Tayuya asked with hostility while maintaining a whisper. She then saw something she had never seen in the blonde's eyes. Fear. It didn't fit the boy. As long as she had known him, he had been brave. "That's the shithole you're from, isn't it?" Naruto nodded softly. He had fear that these ninja would try to kill him, or bring him back so he can suffer again. No, he wouldn't return to that pit of hell. Orochimaru had offered him a place he belonged, and that was where his loyalties would remain. Let's continue to our destination. Maybe this village will help reveal our target. Our information says, a crime boss named Gedu has hired a missing nin from Kurigakure to eliminate a bridge builder. And our target is from Kurigakure. The bridge builder is with those Konoha bastards, so let's follow them from a distance for the time being. The two kunoichi of Otogakure nodded their heads in agreement, and the team continued on with their mission. Tayuya couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to change them from this mission on. It was as if she felt events would change Naruto. 1 week later, Naruto was sitting in the forest, quietly strumming away at his sitar. He appeared to be defenseless. A young girl with black hair wearing a blue dress walked up silently. She held a kunai in her hand. As she prepared to strike, the silence was broken, as Naruto ran his fingers over the string rapidly. Interesting show oinen, or should I say, Haku of Kurigakure. Naruto's eyes remained closed as he slowly stood to his feet. Good ruse, hit your partner with Senbon in just the right spot to create a false death. Haku was taken back by this as the blonde sound nin turned smiling at her. He knew I was there the whole time. He could have dispatched me at any minute. Who is he? She thought to herself. She was ready to fight. She didn't trust this sound ninja as far as she could throw him. They all just use you like a tool, don't they? The smile never faded from his face as he took a step closer to her. It was his mask. He wasn't alone. He didn't need the help of his teammates for this. What would you know? Zabuza-san has given me life, given me a purpose. The girl shouted in retaliation. She wasn't prepared for someone like this, that was for certain. Is that so? The boy coldly said as his face became much graver. He wasn't going to play nice for much longer. He spun the sitar around so it was resting on his back, and he looked at her with darkening eyes. They were no longer friendly. I was treated as filth by the village I was born in, nearly killed on a daily basis for something I never could understand or control. They called me a monster, a demon, a mistake, so don't tell me I don't know what it's like. It came to the conclusion of the boy he was no different than this girl. He was a tool being used by Orochimaru. No, Orochimaru wouldn't do that, would he? He would keep it on a need-to-know basis for the time being. Do what you want. Just don't throw away your life for that man. Maybe when you're ready you will come with us. After that was said, the boy ran up the tree and disappeared in the canopy. As the trio leapt through the canopy of the forest, Tayuya looked at Naruto in a questioning manner. She didn't know what he was doing. It was too subtle, too slow. Dipshit. What the was that? Not one to miss the beat, the impulsive Tayuya was ready to start berating the blonde ninja. It requires planning. I simply put the seed of doubt in her head. She's very loyal to the demon of the mist. We can't just bring her over to our side just like that. Naruto continued to lead the way. He may have been the youngest one in this team, but he was also quite intelligent. This was in fact due to the fact he was taught directly by Kabuto and Orochimaru themselves. Later, at their camp, Tayuya-senpai, what do you know about Naruto-kun? The dark-haired Kunoichi asked quietly. They were left alone for a moment while Naruto had gone to check on something. Kin had noticed something about Naruto changed from the moment he noticed that team of ninja from Konoha. The would I know? Shit, it's not like he tells me much. The foul-mouthed redhead quickly said as she watched the surroundings. She didn't like the feeling of what was going on with Naruto. Something unusual happened the moment he saw those Konohagakure ninja. So then it isn't true that you two are an item. I figured you would know since people seem to think you two are dating. Seeing, as you heard him more than anyone else, the dark-haired beauty calmly responded. In that moment the two began to glare. It would seem even the Kunoichi of Otogakure, despite the focus of their training to become efficient killers, still could notice a guy. And what the does it matter to you, bitch? Just because I hurt the idiot doesn't mean I love him. The redhead was about to fly off the handle and punch this nosy bitch right in the nose. It's none of her business what Naruto means to me. Her thoughts were just as vile, and laced with anger. All anyone knows is one day Orochimaru-sama brought the back one day. He was afraid of everyone. That's the entire story I really know about him. Naruto-kun is hard. No, he is unreadable. You could say he is like the wind. The dark-haired girl softly said. But behind that smile, I can see someone who is suffering inside. Even if he is one of the best of our village, it's like he needs something more. Family is a joke if that's what he wants. The redhead gained a dark look to her face. She in truth did want something more than she had, but Orochimaru had given her something, a place of acceptance. Meanwhile at the bridge, Naruto sat on the edge of the bridge, his fingers moving over the strings of his sitar, his thoughts going over his situation. He never could turn again Orochimaru. Orochimaru had given him a home, a purpose, and taught him many things. But Naruto was realizing Orochimaru didn't care about him, or any of the other members of Otogakure. Who are you? A bossy feminine voice came from behind Naruto. He didn't move and just continued to play. Naruto didn't feel he had to justify her with anything and continued to play his sitar. Answer me. The girl was getting frustrated and drew a kunai. Something about him didn't sit right with her. Why? It's not like you need to know. I'm just a ninja with business in the area. He put on the fake smile he always wore and turned to look at her. Is that so wrong? His eyes narrowed slightly. He recognized her. It was that obnoxious Sasuke fangirl, Ino Yamanaka. You look familiar. Who are you exactly? She took a step familiar. She recognized the whisker markings on the boy's face, but as she stepped closer, to get a better look, he jumped over the side of the bridge. He couldn't afford to be found out by the Konoha ninja, it could jeopardize the mission. He began to focus his chakra into his feet as he adjusted himself during his descent. He just hoped the water below was deep enough in case the water walking technique didn't work, as it sometimes didn't want to work for him. It was coming full circle to the boy slowly. As he fell downward, he realized he could die. That's when it happened. He found himself in a winding tunnel, filled with red lights, and pipes going in all directions. He opted to head in the direction which had more lights. When he reached the end, he found himself staring at his tenant, face to face. Well, never thought I would have to see you this soon, but your recklessness is going to get us killed, so I guess I shall have to start paying rent, the booming demonic voice echoed out. That's right, you die, I die, and frankly I don't want to die, you runt. I see. So are you going to stop up my chakra control and make it so I don't have to worry about not having enough chakra, or too much? The boy asked aggressively, as he looked at the fox. Your rent shall be some of your chakra. After all, if I die, you die, and frankly I can't die yet. There is something I have to find out for myself. He had a look in his eyes that had never been there in all of his years in Otogakure. A look of determination. Fine, but don't screw up. We both have to live. The fox declared with a hint of enjoyment to his voice. Naruto came back to reality and looked around. Only a few seconds passed. He focused chakra to his feet, just as he neared the water. As soon as he touched the water and was standing on top of it, he smirked happily, and quickly ran across the water. He needed to return to the camp. He had been gone long enough and Tayuya would bash his head in with her flute. Naruto landed on the ground and no sooner than he did, crack, a flute came down on top of his head. He rubbed his head and looked at Tayuya. He winced and looked up to see a concerned look on the fiery redhead's face. Shithead. Do you know how worried I was? You were gone so long I thought something bad happened to you. She then hit him over the head with her fist. He then expected another hit, but the unexpected happened. She hugged him. You tell anyone I hugged you, and I will rip your nuts off and force you to eat them. Do I make myself clear? Hi, Tayuya-chan. Naruto meekly said he didn't understand this girl. She never showed much affection to him, just violence. When she released him from the embrace, Naruto could visibly see she was blushing. Naruto, are we going to begin watching that Genin team every day until the Kurigakure Nukenin attack them again? The normally temperamental redhead was for a change being calm, and not cursing. She quietly sat down next to Naruto to enjoy some time with Naruto while Kin was asleep. Yeah, we need to make sure we can get Haku to join us. I'm certain my words did the right thing, Naruto calmly said as he just stared at the campfire. He wasn't paying much attention to the fact Tayuya was sitting next to him now. Okay, Naruto, and if you tell anyone that I was nice to you. She was about to finish the threat when Naruto slumped over against her, asleep. He must have been a bit more tired than he appeared to be. She could have hit him over the head for that, but she decided not to. Rest, Naruto-kun, and fortunately for her, Kin was still asleep, so this wouldn't come back to bite her in the. 4 days later. Tayuya, Kin, you go to the bridge. I'm going to check on something in the village. The two kunoichi nodded and leapt off into the branches of the trees above. Naruto jumped into the branches above and headed off in a separate direction. He had found a few dead animal that had been killed by blades, and there was trail of destruction leading back to the village. At the village, more specifically at Chizuna's house, Naruto sped up as he headed towards the village. I may be going again Orochimaru's orders, but I will not be his pawn. No one tells the wind where to go. He landed on a rooftop and watched calmly. We only need one hostage, the first thug said, as the other was drawing his katana to rush at the boy. Stop. If you touch that boy, I will bite my tongue off and kill myself. You need a hostage, right? The woman aggressively said, wanting to save the boy who appeared to be her son. Damn, I wanted to kill someone, the other thug said with an unamused sound to his voice. Just then their attention was brought to a newcomer. Naruto landed in front of them, a dark look in his eyes. Will you can kill this kid? He looks no older than the brats guarding Chizuna. A smirk crossed over their faces. I'm not just some pushover. You're walking to your deaths. Naruto smirked as the two rushed at him. He simply leapt backwards to get them into a good enough range to use his sitar to cause a wave of sound to disable the two. He spun about, bringing the sitar from its resting position on his back. He then applied chakra to the seals on the neck of the sitar. This caused the strings on the sitar to glow with chakra. As he plucked the strings, a high-pitched sound rang out, causing the men to drop their swords and cover their ears. While the two dropped their guard, Naruto threw two kunai straight forward. The kunai embedded themselves between the eyes of the men. Naruto looked at the woman and child, and smiled, seeing they were okay. "Who are you?" Tsunami asked as she looked at Naruto's handiwork. "Naruto Uzumaki, a ninja from Otogakure. If you people really want to be free, you have to fight for what you want. Remember it." And with that said, he vanished, leaving only a swirling of leaves where he was. At the bridge, Tayuya was getting edgy. Naruto was late, and she was getting edgy. Just then he landed beside her. She could have hit him over the head, but then she saw him shift his mask over his face. She knew they were about to move. "I'll get inside the ice barrier and handle the target. You two keep the Konoha ninja away. Go." He then gave them the motion of the hand signaling to move. When the three landed on the bridge, the one-eyed Jonin and the demon of the mist looked in shock, as did the two girls guarding Tazuna. "It's him, Sakura. He's the one I saw here a few nights back," Ino whispered to Sakura. She wasn't likely to forget him. It was like she recognized him from her childhood. "Tayuya, use genjutsu, kin run interference." Naruto quickly issued the orders as he pulled his sitar around. "Right, Naruto," the red-head and dark-haired girls called out as Naruto made his way to the ice dome. Did they just call the one in the mask Naruto? But that's impossible. Naruto vanished, the cycloptic Jonin coldly thought as he once again returned to his battle with Zabuza. Once Naruto was inside the dome, he applied chakra to a different seal on the neck of his sitar. This would allow him to use wind release. Shield of Hurricane AN. I am not gonna try and make it Japanese since I don't know how to. He looked at the raven-haired boy that inside. He didn't care if the boy was glaring. He had a job to do, and that was to capture Haku. "I don't need anyone's help," the boy shouted with hostility to his voice, not enjoying the interference of Naruto. "Who the hell said I'm here to help some emo kid playing ninja? I'm here to see the girl wearing the mask." Naruto quickly insulted Sasuke, before strumming the chords of his sitar in rhythm, executing the jutsu just in time to knock the Senbon away. He smirked when he saw Sasuke come charging at him, spun his sitar around to his back and blocked the kick Sasuke threw at him with ease. Saneigishu. Naruto quickly bound Sasuke in snakes so he could focus on the battle at hand. The snakes wasted no time constricting around the raven-haired boy to restrict his breathing, causing him to pass out. After they were done, they slithered away. Naruto then applied chakra to a seal located at another fret. Wind release. Sonic pulse. Naruto then played a series of chords and notes on the sitar, causing a high-pitched sound to emanate and shatter Haku's mirrors. Haku landed on the ground in front of Naruto. She had never seen her technique defeated. It was impossible. "How did you do that?" "It's impossible to break my mirrors. Simple, I just used enough chakra to cause the pulse to be high enough that it would shatter your mirrors." He moved his sitar around and watched her quietly. He pulled a kunai out and just stood ready. "Do you still wish to be the tool of that man, or come with me back to the land of sound? You won't be a tool there, you will be considered a person. That is what the Otokage wants." Naruto lifted his mask up and looked at her quietly. And when she pulled her mask off, he knew he had gotten through to her. "All right, I will go with you. Zabuza-san has used me as a weapon long enough, prevented me from finding any happiness." The girl spoke in a defeated manner. Her eyes sadder. The boy in front of her was right. Meanwhile, across the bridge, things were intensifying as the copy ninja utilized his one technique, the Reikiri. He charged forward and threw ball of lightning forward. He smashed it right through Zabuza's giant sword, and struck a hole right into Zabuza's chest. Just then Naruto and Haku walked forward, and Haku looked sad to see Zabuza dying on the bridge. Kakashi looked shocked when he saw Naruto's face. It is him. Who took him to Otogakure? I failed my sensei. I couldn't keep his son from falling to another village. Kakashi's thoughts were plagued with regret as he pushed his Hite-8 down over his left eye. Haku, you've rusted, you're no longer a worthy tool to me, do you hate me? Zabuza was having regrets in his last moments, he should have raised the girl better than he did. No, Zabuza-san, you just opened my eyes to the truth. I will never be someone's tool again. You helped me become strong, but you need to find your rest, demon of the mist. The girl spoke coldly as she looked down at the man who was dying. She then shed a tear, for inside it truly hurt her to see him fading away. This takes care of the problem of having to pay him. I was going to just kill him, and the girl once they killed the bridge builder, but now I only have to kill the girl. Good thing I brought an army. Naruto, how do you want to get rid of them? We're running low on chakra, and there is a lot of mercenaries. Kin asked as she stepped beside Naruto. He then pointed behind the mercenary army to a group of citizens from the village. Always look underneath, the Cycloptic Jonin coldly stated, as he watched Naruto think the scenario over. I have just the thing. He then walked forward, pulling his sitar out. He applied chakra to the third seal on the sitar's neck and strummed the strings lightly. Wind release. Hurricane blades. This caused a series of blasts of wind which cut down the mercenaries that stood in his way. Once a clear path presented itself, he spun the sitar over and applied chakra, causing his own sword of Kusanagi to reveal itself. He took the long sword in hand. It of course looked different from Orochimaru's. He swung his sitar around so it was resting on his back again. He then rushed forward and brought the blade swinging upward, causing Getu to fall backwards. Please spare my life, I will give you anything you want, kid. The corrupt businessman pleaded, but his pleas fell upon deaf ears. Naruto plunged the sword through Getu's heart and pulled the sword out, and with a flick of the wrist the tycoon's blood was flung off the blade. There, I think the village can handle the rest of these fools. Naruto walked back silently as he held the sword of Kusanagi in his hand. Of course, this confirmed all the fears Kakashi had about Naruto. He had fallen into the clutches of Konoha's greatest enemy. We're leaving Tayuya, Kin, and Haku. Naruto reached behind, allowing the sword of Kusanagi to return to its hiding place in the sitar. Where are you going with her? Kakashi asked, only to see Naruto ignore him. Answer me, Naruto. It's no concern of yours, copy ninja. The Otokage asked us to get her and we did. And with that the four of them disappeared, leaving Kakashi distraught, and feeling like he had failed the Yondaime. 2 weeks later, back in Otogakure. You did well, Naruto-kun, though I am a bit disappointed you decided to help a village, but in doing such you garnered some fame for our village. The snake Sanin spoke with a sickening smile on his face. You showed great leadership qualities during this mission, so I believe you and Kin have earned the right to participate in the Chunin exams. This shall give the revenge you desire, but you will need a third teammate. Tayuya will return to the Sound 4 and aid me during my ruse as the Cage. So Haku-chan shall be on your team. Naruto and Kin nodded solemnly. Haku followed suit. She didn't want to offend the Otokage. Dosu, Zaku, and Okuni shall form a second team. There is someone I want you to procure for me during the exams, and Uchiha. Hi, Orochimaru-sama. Naruto knew this would present a chance for him, just the chance he needed. That is all. Prepare yourselves and train. We shall depart in 1 week. You are dismissed. The young ninja nodded their heads and left the room. Outside, Naruto was about to his own way to prepare himself. Before he left, Tayuya had grabbed his arm. Something had been worrying her since Wave Country, that he might be taken away from her. Shithead, don't you dare die on me in the pisshole or I will go straight to hell and bring you back. Naruto nodded quickly before heading to his room to get ready for the trip. A month later, the team reaches Konoha. Welcome to Konoha. Are you here for the Chunin exams? The gate guard queried, and when the Sound Village ninja nodded, the gates opened and they proceeded into the village quietly. Orochimaru had taken on a disguise for time being while in this village, since he was indeed a wanted criminal. Not even in the village a few minutes and Naruto's bad memories came flooding back, but some good ones were mixed in as well. He remembered the old man they called Hokage who treated him like a human being. But that was halted when a kid wearing something that looked like either a bad Batman cosplay, or ugly pajamas knocked a little child down. He then saw the Otogakure Hite 8 and stepped forward since he had his intel and the child was the Hokage's grandson. Hey, leave the kid alone, that's the Hokage's grandson and I don't think you want to start trouble just because he bumped into you. Naruto dryly said as he stepped forward. And who's going to make me a shrimp like you? The larger ninja hastily said, while the blonde standing next to him rolled her eyes. You're going to get us in trouble, Kankuro, so cut it out. She quickly scolded him, not thinking this was the time or the place. She then turned her attention to Naruto and looked in shock. I figured you would be a Chunin by now. Hello Tamari, if you're here does that mean Gaara is? Naruto calmly said as he stepped closer. How in the hell do you know my sister Runt? Kankuro attempted shove Naruto who skillfully spun out of the way. He grabbed hold of Kankuro's pinky and bent it back slightly to disable him. Kankuro, you're a disgrace to our village, came a cold malice-filled voice of a red head standing on the branch of a tree above. Gee Gaara, I'm sorry, but this guy was starting trouble with me. Kankuro quickly made his excuses. He obviously was in fear of his younger brother. As for how I know Tamari, I met her and Gaara a year ago when the Otokage visited Suna. The blonde harshly said as he released Kankuro's pinky. He walked over to Kin and Haku quietly. Hey you, what's your name? Came a demand from a hostile voice on a roof above. Naruto looked up to see Sasuke, or as he so aptly liked to call him, Emo Kid. Naruto Uzumaki. He then continued to walk away, not caring what this pompous prick's name was. It was apparent that Naruto didn't like this kid much. Mine is Sasuke Uchiha. You caught off guard in Wave Country, Naruto. It won't happen again. Of course, this was just convenient for Naruto, since he had taken care of this stuck-up pretentious brat once before. It surely couldn't be that hard the second time around. Let's go, Kin and Haku, we have to go sign in. The blonde coldly said as he walked off with the two girls in tow. Of course it was just ruse to allow them to meet with Kabuto, who was in disguise in one of the alleys. Making friends already, are we, Naruto-kun? Came the familiar academic voice of Kabuto, who was hiding under a cloak. Naruto walked up slowly while Kin and Haku stayed on lookout. How does Tayuya-chan feel about you being alone with Haku and Kin? I bet she's fuming right now. Kabuto quietly teased the blonde, who didn't offer much humor in return. The intelligence, if you will, sensei, Naruto dryly replied. Kabuto handed him some information. Be careful, the copy ninja knows who you are. Your father was his sensei after all, so be careful during the exam. Now the exam has 3 to 4 portions, the written, the survival, and then the one-on-one matches. The intel I gave you has some of the people you need to watch out for listed. Later at the Forest of Death. They had been in the Forest of Death for at least a day and a half. Naruto and his team had acquired all the scrolls they would need, and those for the other Sound team. Naruto, Kin, and Haku were now looking for their objective. They were the ones who knew the real goal. The other team was given a false mission. Isn't that one of Orochimaru-sama's snake summons? Kin pointed to the giant snake that was attacking the genin team that they had met in Wave Country. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw Orochimaru snake his head forward to give the Uchiha the cursed seal. The burning sensation coursed through the boy as the cursed seal of heaven formed. The pain became too much for the boy and he passed out. He will come to me and seek power, unlike the one you know as Naruto, or the others that serve me. Sasuke will be more than a pawn, something easily sacrificed. He shall be the most important piece, the king. Orochimaru then broke into a disturbing laugh, which could bring anyone to shudder. Kin and Haku gasped in shock. Their leader was planning to just sacrifice them. Is that all we are to you? Naruto couldn't stand it anymore. He had his doubts for a while. He leapt downward and threw a punch which was quickly avoided by the Sannin. Naruto's eyes were now red with demonic slits. Oh, what a shame, Naruto-kun. I'm disappointed that you have turned against me. A pawn should never aspire to become the king. The Sannin then punched Naruto, knocking against a tree. Gogyo Fuin. With that, 5 of the Sannin's fingers began to glow with chakra. He then slammed his fingers into Naruto's stomach, sealing away the chakra of the Kyuubi. Naruto slumped over as the seal took form over the existent seal on his stomach. The Orochimaru backed up a tree and melded with it while laughing in a sinister manner. You have outlived your usefulness to me, Naruto-kun. I will enjoy destroying you and your team. And with that, the snake Sannin vanished into the tree. Just then Haku and Kin leapt over to check on Naruto. Before they could escape and get Naruto to safety, a kunai was thrown at the tree. You work for him. What did he do to Sasuke-kun? The pink-haired kunoichi prepared to throw another kunai at them. We don't know. The only one who knows anything about that is Naruto, and he's out of commission. Now back off, little girl. We need to get Naruto somewhere safe, and you need to do the same thing for your teammate. Kin quickly warned as she pulled out her Senbon and prepared to throw them. They're right, Sakura. Sasuke doesn't look so good, Ino reminded her rival and teammate. Sakura turned to look and nodded, and when she looked back, Naruto and his team were gone. The pink-haired kunoichi glared before helping Ino get their teammate to safety. A day later, Naruto slowly came around. He noticed his surroundings had changed. He saw that he was longer up in the trees. He sat up and looked to either side to see Kin and Haku both looking at him with concern. Where's my sitar? He looked around since he had never been without it. It was broken when Orochimaru knocked into the tree, Kin dryly said, pointing to the broken instrument. She stopped showing reverence for the man they served due to her discovery of how Orochimaru. The two girls gasped as Naruto broke the body of the sitar, taking the seal that held his sword. We have to reach the tower and complete this portion of the exam. He applied chakra to the seal and pulled his sword out of the glowing seal. On the reverse side there was another seal. He applied chakra to that, which brought a scabbard out of the seal. He sheathed his sword, and looked to the two girls. Let's go. I personally don't intend to let the snake see me dead just yet. Hi Naruto, the two kunoichi said in unison as they followed Naruto. They may have lost their faith in Orochimaru, but they found something in Naruto they could trust. It would seem, he was the type who wouldn't ever give up no matter how hopeless the situation was. Several hours later, the team walked into the main hall where the other teams were assembling. When Naruto's team stood in place, Naruto received looks of shock from Kakashi and the Hokage. Just as Kakashi said, "It's Naruto, so that's your game, Orochimaru," the wise third Hokage thought quietly while puffing on his pipe. Orochimaru smiled sickeningly when he saw that the traitors to his ambition had survived. That's it, Naruto-kun, act as the catalyst that delivers Sasuke to me. You and your team won't be the sacrifices for my summoning technique, you will just be the catalyst to offer me more power than I could ever dream to have. The snake smirked, his thoughts on the power that he could obtain. Now to explain why you are really here. You are told it's to promote friendship between countries. To raise the level of shinobi, I don't want you to be confused about the true meaning. The Hokage began before taking another drag on his pipe. The true meaning of the exam is war. Or rather, replacement for war so shinobi villages don't fight senselessly. The lecture continued on explaining about the purpose. Then a sickly exam proctor stepped forward and coughed lightly. Allow me to continue for you, Hokage-sama. I exam proctor, Hayate Gecko shall explain. The rest. When the Hokage nodded, the man coughed and stood to his feet. This is just a preliminary for the next round. Too many teams made it through the second round, so if you feel you cannot do any more fighting, speak now. Kabuto had raised his hand. I overdid it. I don't think I can go on. Naruto knew very well Kabuto wasn't down and out, he just was faking it as part of Orochimaru's plan. You are Kabuto Yakushi of the Leaf. You are free to retire. With that said, Kabuto left the area. As he passed Naruto, the two shot a glance at each other. Kabuto more than likely knew Naruto wasn't bound to serve Orochimaru much longer. A bit later, I'm not going to give details of all the matches since that would take a while. The monitor flashed through names, and the first match was decided. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akato. The match didn't take long to end with Sasuke doing a powerful taijutsu combo which left Yoroi out cold. Winner, Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke was escorted out of the arena by Kakashi. The matches continued with Kankuro winning against Tsurugi, Temari winning against Tenten, and a draw between Sakura and Ino. The names spiraled through, and there it was Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka. The two combatants jumped down into the arena and stood across from each other. Begin. The proctor managed to say before coughing, and stepping out of the way. You're going down, pretty boy. The Inuzuka proudly proclaimed as he gave his dog, Akamaru, a soldier pill. Naruto just remained calm as he pulled the fox mask down over his face. To Haku and Kin, this signified bad news for boy he was fighting. Orochimaru smirked, seeing his former student still had the habit of wearing the mask when he was serious. Kiba then proceeded to use Jujin Bunshin. This caused Akamaru to look just like him and create the illusion of there being two. Kiba continued by Shikyaku no Jutsu. This gave him the edge he needed. Gatsuga. Kiba roared out as he and his clone rushed forward, turning into two spiraling vortexes that flew at Naruto. Naruto didn't move, he simply braced himself as he planned to gauge the intensity of the attack to get a feel for how strong this kid's attacks were. The blow connected with Naruto, who was sent reeling back as he was hit by the two. He rolled across the ground and stood to his feet slowly. You're strong, I will give you that much. But you underestimate me. He rushed forward and produced some shadow clones by using Kage Bunshin to create clones to run interference. When the Inuzuka destroyed the clones that rushed forward, when the smoke cleared, the masked boy was gone. Before he could react, something hard connected with his right knee. Just then Naruto brought the sheathed sword around and hooked it on the falling boy's hood and spun around, bringing him down on his back like a rag doll. Smoke dissipated to reveal Akamaru. You dropped your guard, pretty boy. Kiba roared out as he performed Suga, flying straight at Naruto. As the blow hit, the body vanished, turning out to be a Kage Bunshin. Kiba looked in silence just before three shadow clones kicked him into the air. Just then the original jumped into the air and brought a fierce axe kick down onto the boy's head. The boy came crashing down in the arena floor face first. The onlookers looked shocked. The most shocked of the onlookers was his Junin sensei. Hayate walked over and lifted Kiba's head lightly and coughed lightly before standing up. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki. With that, Naruto walked back up into stand, pulling his fox mask upward slowly. Once he was back with his team, he rested against the wall. The next match that followed was Kin Suchi against Shikamaru Nara. The fight didn't take long as Kin fell into Shikamaru's unique jutsu and was knocked unconscious as her head crashed into the wall. Naruto leaned close to Haku and whispered in her ear, "We have to be careful during the rest of the exam, the snake might try something." Haku nodded softly. Naruto was concerned for Kin at the moment. He didn't see Orochimaru anywhere in the arena. The next match followed Haku against Okuni. Needless to say, Okuni lost swiftly against Haku. The next bout was between Zaku and Shino. It was a fight that ultimately ended with Shino being the winner. Then the match between Neji Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga took place. Naruto growled with disgust as he could clearly tell that Neji was simply toying with the girl. Naruto restrained himself from leaping down and stopping Neji from trying to kill the girl. Fortunately, the Jonin leapt in and stopped the boy from going too far. The next fight that came was between Gaara and Rock Lee. The battle itself looked as if hell itself broke out, ending with Lee losing. His body was nearly broken by the time it was over, and Gaara had been declared the winner. The last battle was between Choji Akamichi and Dosu Kinyuda. The fight ended as quickly as it began. This was no shock to Naruto. "All finalists please report to the center of the arena," the sick proctor managed to say between coughs. When all the finalists reached the floor, he held out a box. "Please reach in and pull out a slip of paper." After saying this, each of the finalists did as they were told until each had a slip of paper. After confirming their numbers, the lots were drawn. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Neji Hyuga. Sasuke Uchiha vs Subaku no Gaara. Subaku no Kankuro vs. Shino Aburame. Shikamaru Nara vs. Subaku no Tamari. Haku vs. Dosu Kinyuda. U10 will be participating in the final round of the exams. The proctor coughed as he looked at the 10. He was about to continue until the obnoxiously loud Anko stepped forward. "You have 1 month to prepare, rest up, train, perfect your tactics. Until then you are dismissed." The ninja all dispersed. Just then Kakashi landed behind Naruto and Haku with Anko at their front. "Will you come with us? The Hokage would love to speak with you," the cycloptic Junin said with a pleasant look on his face. Later inside the Hokage's office, Naruto had just told the Hokage the whole story, and the old man took another puff of his pipe. "I see, Naruto-kun, you left the village with him because you were tired of being attacked. I wish I could have prevented that." He then looked at Kakashi and Anko who were watching the door. "What do you plan to do? Continue to masquerade as Sound Ninja?" Naruto shook his head. He wasn't going to be loyal to Orochimaru any longer. He also wasn't going to let something bad happen to Kin. But, Tayuya, how was he going to save her? She's one of the Sound Four. "Is there a way we can become a ninja of Konoha?" the boy asked with high hopes. "I'm afraid it won't be that easy, but I think with the resources here we can get you to be part of the Leaf after the exams are over," the Hokage commented before taking another puff of his pipe. "I'm surprised you broke free of my former student Naruto-kun. Most people who are trained by him turn out to be blindly loyal." "That's because I refused to be just a pawn. I realized he treated me as a tool. When I was sent to capture Haku for him, I saw how Haku was treated as nothing but a tool by Zabuza, and I realized it was what Orochimaru was doing with all of us." The blonde boy ripped his hite off and dropped it to the floor. "I am Naruto Uzumaki, son of Yondaime Hokage Arashi Uzumaki, and I am no one's pawn. I have one request. We need to make sure Kin is someplace safe. The snake may try something," the boy asked quietly since it wasn't his place. "It will be done," the Hokage said and motioned to Anko to see to it. Naruto and Haku stood to their feet to leave the office. "Where are you two going?" "To train," the boy said as he pocketed the hite. He wasn't going to wear the symbol of the Sound Village ever again. "You showed the will of fire, Naruto-kun. You might need this," As far as I'm concerned, you are of the leaf. The Hokage reached into his desk and pulled out a Hite-8 and tossed it over to Naruto. That was Arashi's headband. You deserve to wear it. I agree, Hokage-sama. We will induct you as a lead ninja after the exams. We have to prepare for Orochimaru's attack for now. You two should get prepared for the finals. The Cycloptic Jonin commented as he opened the door for Naruto and Haku to leave. Naruto took the Hite-8 around his head as he walked out, Haku following. When they were gone, Kakashi looked at the Hokage quietly, a smile on his face. Do you think Jiraiya will find him? The one-eyed Jonin could only wonder. It would be a new development and hindrance to the snake's plans. I believe he will. Naruto is after all a genius in battle situations from what I've seen, and those are the type my former student enjoys to teach. The Hokage took another puff of his pipe with a smile on his face. This would serve well to stop the former student. Sarutobi was going to do whatever he could to stop Orochimaru this time. Naruto was walking through the village quietly, his mind set on finding someplace to train in secret. He had no doubts that Haku could take care of herself. His eyes shifted about as he thought there were a few girls following him. Naruto stopped and turned swiftly. Just then there was nothing there, but there was a trail of dust leading into an alley. He shrugged and kept walking. He was going to find someplace where he could train in solitude. Once he found a training area, he sighed and began to focus his chakra, but he was finding it hard to do such. Damn that snake. The 5 elements seal is screwing up my chakra control. He never taught me how to the unsealing technique. His thoughts were on how to effectively be able to train while he has this handicap. Would you two mind stepping out now? His eyebrow raised as he turned around slowly, watching as the 2 girls from Sasuke's team stepped out. He had to admit that they were both pretty. Of course he felt the blonde was the prettier one simply based on her confidence. How long did you know we were following you? The pink-haired Kunoichi quickly asked. She didn't believe that Naruto was as skilled as he was. She thought he looked like he was a bit slow. From the moment I left my accommodations, you both wear too much perfume. And on top of that, it didn't help that you kept arguing while you were tracking me. I thought you both were obsessed with the arrogant little nihilist. Naruto would probably regret calling the Uchiha that under other circumstances. He only received ice glares from them. He could tell the pink-haired one was restraining herself from striking him. I will ignore that insult you directed at Sasuke-kun. Now tell us who you are and why you suddenly have a Hite-8 of our village on your forehead. The pink-haired girl was growing more and more violent by the minute. I'm the son of the Yondaime Hokage, if it's any of your business. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. And the Sandaime Hokage made me a leaf ninja last night. If you don't mind, I have to do some training. He then proceeded to walk around the girls trying to find some place he could train. He didn't need a fan club to follow him around. He had an unofficial one in the shape of Kin back in Otogakure. But he was a self-made ninja and didn't need fans. Way to go, forehead. You scare away Naruto-kun just because you just had to be temperamental because he insulted Sasuke. Naruto is better than Sasuke. He doesn't ignore us when we talk to him. And he's better looking. The Yamanaka loudly proclaimed as she poked Sakura's forehead each time. She didn't make any effort to hide her true thoughts about the new genin. Well, excuse me, Ino pig. I recall he was a sound ninja yesterday. Now he's one of the leaf. I don't see what's so special about him. The pink-haired girl violently said as slapped her friend's hand away. Let's see, forehead girl. He says he's the son of the Yondaime. We saw his fight with Kiba. And we saw what he did on the bridge, which I may remind you was named after him. Ino quickly replied before poking Sakura's forehead again. The two then glared at each other. Naruto thankfully was gone from the area, so in a sense the two girls were fighting for no reason. Outside the bathhouses, Naruto was walking along when something caught his eyes, a man who was dressed like he belonged in a kabuki play. He seemed to be peeping on girls while taking notes. Naruto didn't think highly of this, it seemed perverted. Hey you! The man looked up from what he was doing and glared at the boy. Something caught the old man's eye when he noticed the purple rope-like belt around the boy's body, and the robes themselves. They reminded him of his old friend and teammate, Orochimaru. Boy, tell me, do you know a man named Orochimaru? Yeah, he was like a father to me, but I learned he was treating me as nothing but a pawn recently, the boy calmly said as he adjusted the hite-8 on his head quietly. He no longer wore it off to the side, the steel plate now faced straight forward. What is your name, kid? The old man seemed to take interest in this kid. He was different. Like he couldn't be taught through a normal method, he could tell that this kid would be one of the fun ones. Naruto Uzumaki. After he said this, the old man's eyes widened. It all made sense. So that's your game, your snake. Use the son of the man who beat you out for the position of Hokage to get revenge on the village. You made one mistake teaching him, he will be your very undoing. The old man smirked and stood up. The name is Jiraiya, and from this day forth I shall see to your training. The man then struck a pose like he belonged in a kabuki play. The Toad Sage of the legendary Sannin. Just as I trained your father, I shall train you. On one condition, you Ero Sennin, you help me get some new robes. I don't really think this is my color. I was thinking orange and black. The boy in the first time in his life gave a true smile. Most of the time it's the fake smile he used to deceive his enemies. I also want to get a second mask to take with me. I was thinking Hanya mask. Ah, showmanship at such a young age. I'm starting to like you, kid. The Toad Sage spoke with much zeal. He smiled and walked off with Naruto. Naruto then looked upward at Jiraiya. Hey Jiraiya-sama, can you remove a seal that the snake put on me? Let's see what it is, shall we? Jiraiya turned serious. Naruto opened the robe-like top, and Jiraiya began to inspect it. He noticed the even-numbered seal as the one that keeps the nine-tailed fox sealed inside, but the one on top was a 5-element seal. This was the world of Orochimaru, alright. Okay kid, this might sting a little bit. Gogyo Kaian. The Sannin's thrust his hand forward and slammed the fingers against the seal, burning away the Gogyo Fuin. This caught Naruto off guard. The pain lasted only a moment, but he felt as if his chakra flow was back to normal. Naruto walked to the stream of water nearby. As his chakra flow came out on its own, he smiled, knowing he could use his chakra freely again. This would make things easier. He stopped water walking and returned to his new sensei. Kid, there's no need to call me Jiraiya-sama. I'm not an egomaniac like that snake is. Now let's get you some new threads, the mask, and introduce you to a little friend I like to call Ramen. After a shopping trip, the two went to Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto had just simply stared at the ramen. He had never seen this kind of food. He, after all, had lived on a different diet over the past 4 years. He, of course, was too busy exchanging looks with the girl working at the stand. He may have only been 13, but he sure could notice that girls were becoming more attractive. So you're at that age that you're starting to notice girls, The Toad Sannin quickly teased the boy before breaking into some laughter. Naruto blushed for a moment and quickly began to eat the ramen. He found that this was like a party in his mouth and everyone was dancing. He quickly ate the bowl while maintaining manners. It was one thing he had acquired in Otogakure that would stay with him the rest of his life. Tayuya, after all, beat it into his head, literally. So Jiraiya-sensei, what will you be teaching me first? Naruto then shifted his attention to behind him. He knew he hard heard something. He then saw pink hair in one of bushes. His eye twitched. He didn't really enjoy the attention of these girls. Even if these girls didn't senselessly hit him over the head for something, it was still unnerving. He could make out 1, 2, 3, 3 girls. One looked like she was fidgeting. Why did that seem so familiar? That was it, he remembered a little girl from before he left the village, and she was the only one who ever tried to be his friend even when her father told her to stay away. Who knew coming back to this village would remind him of some of the good things that happened in his life. Then a fight broke out between the stalkers while they tried to stay hidden. You haven't even really been a ninja of the village very long and you already have a fan club. Jiraiya beamed proudly at his student and ordered another bowl of ramen for the boy. Eat up, you will need the energy for when we begin training this afternoon. But before training we're going to pay a visit to my sensei. I want to ensure you get enough training, boy. Naruto nodded and began to eat, and he found that he really loved ramen. Something about the way it tasted made him happy. While he ate, he ignored that the sounds of the fight escalated as 2 more girls joined the fray, girls that were on his team. When the fight ended, Naruto and Jiraiya had already left. The 5 girls walked out of hiding to see Naruto was gone, and they all frowned. Then Kin, being one of the 5, remembered something that made her a bit terrified. I think he's already spoken for. I forgot that Tayuya and Naruto-kun are kind of close. How close do you mean? And who is Tayuya? The pink-haired Kunoichi quickly asked. It would seem all of these girls seemed to like Naruto. Sadly, he wasn't at that stage where he liked girls that much. Also, there was the matter of Orochimaru currently that he was focused on. She's from Otogakure, and she is one of the elites. We call them the Sound Four, and she hits him a lot. The 3 girls of the lead just blinked. They didn't quite understand this. Since it was weird to hit someone you care about. She hits him. The Yamanaka girl queried, since it was weird in her book, though she might be tempted to do it herself if he said something or did something idiotic. It's her strange way of showing affection. She cusses at him more than others in Otogakure. She always hits Naruto a lot. She's just different like that. Kin quietly added as she fussed with her new hite-8 in new clothes. She wasn't quite accustomed to dressing how she wanted instead of a uniform like most sound shinobi did. I also don't think she will be very likely to share him, but she's loyal to Otogakure no Sato, which means Naruto is fair game. That's when the 5 girls all smiled darkly, the kind that made any nearby guy cringe with fear for whoever they were plotting against. At the Hokage Tower. You mean your sensei is the Hokage? Naruto was shocked at this. It was strange in his book, but he was trained by both Orochimaru and Kabuto, the 2 most powerful people in Otogakure no Sato. Yes. He trained me, the snake, and Tsunade, but she left the village a long time ago. Jiraiya commented with a smile before the 2 were led into the Hokage's office. The 2 then sat down and waited for Sarutobi to address them. Ah, Jiraiya, I see you've met Naruto-kun, so what do I owe to this visit? The wise old man quietly said as he smoked his pipe. If I know you, it's about his training. That it is, Sarutobi-sensei. I was thinking that it would be beneficial to the boy that if we could get Gamabunta and the Monkey King Enma to agree that this boy could be permitted to have contracts with both. Jiraiya was calm about this, which showed his determination to help Naruto become as powerful as he could. I know that he is after all your personal summon. And probably want to keep the monkey contract exclusive to your clan. I do not see any harm in extending it to the Uzumaki clan. The only thing I can think of is if Naruto has signed the snake contract prior. You know how Gamabunta dislikes snakes. Sarutobi quietly said as he smoked on his pipe quietly. Naruto sat quietly while the 2 authority figures discussed this. I never signed the snake contract. Orochimaru said I wasn't ready to sign the contract. The truth of it was, Naruto didn't see the point of a contract that required numerous sacrifices to appease the boss beast. It was kind of disgusting in the truth of it. Come to think of it, the keeper of the wolf contract has been in the area, but Genshin Hanzo is reclusive man. He doesn't allow many to sign the wolf contract. Sarutobi quietly commented. He knew the man was a loner by nature, but that's what made him efficient. If we can get him to allow the boy to sign that contract, he will have 3 powerful summons he can call upon. We need to find Genshin, then we can parlay the deal between the 3 boss summons. Jiraiya calmly smiled, as the 3 of them stood to their feet. They opened the door and there stood the man. Of course it shocked them a little bit to see him. Toad Sage, and Hokage-sama, it is nice to see you again, the man pleasantly said as he walked into the room. Genshin was a peculiar-looking ninja for the most part. Around his arms, waist, and legs were several chains. He wore forest camouflage pants, wooden sandals. He also wore the Leaf Village Hite-8 around his neck, while on his head was a sacket. Strapped to his shoulder was a wolf mask, and across his back was the wolf contract. He sat down in a chair, and took off his sacket before he ran his fingers through his short spiky hair. One would almost think he was related to Kakashi, if it wasn't for the golden brown eyes. So what rank do you hold now, Genshin? Jiraiya was interested since he had been out of the village for some time. Last time I saw ya, you just became a genin. How many years has it been, boy? I'm a jonin, man. This kid's stealing my look. Genshin smiled as he took a good look at Naruto. He then smirked, and pulled out the contract. He saw something in the kid's eyes that made him think the kid could handle it. He has the look of a future leader. Fenrir is fond of those who can become leaders, it's how wolves are. So we just have to see if Gamabunta and Enma will agree to allow the kid to summon them as well. By the way, Genshin, you may want to watch out for Kurenai, she still wants blood for your little vanishing act. Sarutobi quietly said, with a smile on his face. He then broke into laughter when he saw Genshin become pale. Later at training field number 5. The 3 carriers of the contracts proceeded to summon their corresponding summons. Genshin summoned Fenrir, Sarutobi summoned Enma, and Jiraiya summoned Gamabunta. Gamabunta of course dwarfed the other 2. Okay Jiraiya, why did you call me out? Oh great, Fenrir, and Enma, what in the name of all that is decent is going on? The Toad boss didn't seem too pleased as he glowered downward at the Toad Sage. Simple, we want to make a deal with you 3 to allow the boy to summon each of you. Jiraiya then pushed Naruto to the center of the area so the 3 boss summons could size him up. The Monkey King Enma leapt forward and looked Naruto up and down. If it was based on appearance alone, he would have to say that the kid looked pretty strong. But it was wisdom that is needed to win the Monkey King over. Before you can summon me, you will have to summon 72 of my earthly followers, and 36 of my celestial followers. Then recite unto me each of their names when you summon me. The Monkey King then backed up to his original position. Fenrir the 5-tailed wolf stalked forward and cast his 3-eyed gaze upon Naruto. He spread forth his wings of metal as he circled Naruto. He was waiting for signs of fear to show. He was looking for the utmost strength, the strength that even a wolf would follow. I can recognize this kid as having what it takes to call upon wolves. He has what it takes to be a leader, and only those who can lead should call upon wolves. Lastly, Gamabunta leaned downward and looked the boy over. He squinted his eyes as he looked close. You sure you can handle summoning the Toad boss, kid? It's nothing like calling Enma or Fenrir. You gotta be ready for a hectic ride. He then waited for Naruto's response. Is that a challenge? Back when I served that disgusting snake with a god complex, I never really had a challenge, and if I challenged him he would have killed me or those I held precious. Naruto looked at Gamabunta with a strong look of determination in his eyes. Get on my back, boy. If you manage to stay on my back for 30 minutes, I will agree to this arrangement. Gamabunta was of course a force to be reckoned with. They say riding a bull is like sitting on a briefcase of dynamite. Would riding the Toad Boss be like sitting on a nuclear bomb? Needless to say, Naruto jumped upward and grabbed hold of the Toad Boss's jacket. And just in time, because the toad just then took off, leaping into the forest, jumping around with a lot of energy. Needless to say, 30 minutes later Naruto was still holding fast of the jacket as he skidded to a stop. He smirked. That is, if toads do in fact smirk, to see that this kid had what it took and more. He then returned to the training field and allowed the boy to climb off. I will allow this kid to summon me as well, but as part of the arrangement he can only summon me if things get difficult. With Fenrir and Enma he should be able to take care of things without my help all the time. The three then instructed Naruto on the procedure to summon. For King Enma, Naruto would use his left hand, for Gamabunta his right hand, and for Fenrir he would use both hands. And so Naruto signed each of the contracts with his blood, and then with a puff of smoke each summon disappeared. We will oversee the training of summoning over the next month, and Naruto-kun, I would like for you to keep the monkey contract with you so one day you can help teach my grandson to summon him. He already thinks highly of you for saving him from that sand ninja almost a week ago. Sarutobi smiled brightly as the boy nodded. Just then the silence was destroyed, when an angry, almost more pissed off than usual Kurenai walked over, glaring at Genshin. Genshin Hanzo, where the hell have you been? Genshin turned pale as Kurenai approached, and then there was a loud crack as he was punched square in the jaw. And if I hear you snuck off to see Shizune again, I will strangle you with those chains. Now this would be a sight to behold for the usually calm and emotionless Kurenai to be blowing a gasket like she was. Naruto only winced when he saw the force at which she punched Genshin. Genshin stood to his feet and rubbed his jaw, wincing greatly. I had a mission. Crack, he was punched in the other jaw. Naruto was afraid to ask the story on this one, he only assumed the two were dating. Naruto, Sarutobi, and Jiraiya quickly said in unison, I'm staying out of this one, mostly for the sake of their own health. They didn't want to make any enemies out of Konoha's most powerful genjutsu specialist. A month soon comes to pass, and the finals arrive. A month came to pass. Naruto had learned much in the ways of summoning jutsu, but he still didn't get the hang of a few jutsu that he was taught by Genshin and Jiraiya. He would have to work on them later. He also came to learn that Genshin was another bad role model, a womanizing ninja. Before this round began, they had a new proctor. It would seem the sickly proctor was murdered at Kikyo Castle before this round could begin, so they had a new proctor, one Genma Shiranui. They were all there except for Sasuke Uchiha and Dosu Kinuda. This would prove to be interesting nonetheless. The first round would be Naruto against Neji. Okay, let me explain. In this round it is a fight until one can no longer fight. Killing your opponent also counts as a win, but I will step in if I deem it necessary. Now the first round is Naruto Uzumaki against Neji Hyuga. Those who aren't fighting, please go to the waiting area. Naruto was amazed that the proctor hadn't choked on his senbon yet, the way it dangled in his mouth all the time. The two fighters walked to their positions waiting for the signal to begin. Today I will show you the power of destiny, Uzumaki. And you are destined to lose against me just as that fool I call a cousin did. The Hyuga prodigy smirked as he flexed his fingers lightly. He glared more as he noticed Naruto didn't seem to be making a move against him. Blah blah blah. Ya know I don't believe in destiny. He dug his heels into the ground and rushed forward, taking a swing at Neji, who pushed it away while using his chakra to seal the tenketsu. You really should have used your shadow clones, idiot. You won't catch me off guard like you did with Kiba. Just because you are the son of the Yondaime doesn't mean you are destined for greatness. The Hyuga prodigy rushed forward and began to strike the tenketsu points on Naruto's body. 8 trigrams. 64 palms. The prodigy smirked as he sealed up each tenketsu point on his opponent's body. You know I was just sizing you up, Naruto smirked as he reached towards his head, setting a hand on the new mask. You've seen the trickster fox, but you have never seen the spiteful Hanya. He slowly moved the mask down over his face with a grin. Like wearing a mask is going to help him win against Neji. Tenten smirked. She was sure Neji would win this battle, but Kin began to laugh. She knew Naruto used the masks to represent his intentions in battle. What's so funny? Naruto is famous for wearing a mask, like the fake smile he shows so often. You can tell in his eyes it's not a real smile. I have seen his real smile a few times. Kin somberly spoke with intimate knowledge of how Naruto fights. She knows that he is practically a genius when it comes to hands-on work. Down on the battleground, Neji began to laugh. You think a no theater mask will help? Just then his eyes widened as he saw Naruto's chakra expand and it was red. This shouldn't be happening, not when he sealed off all Naruto's tenketsu points. It's play time, Hanzo style. Wolf's rush. Naruto rushed forward, brought his fist right into Neji's stomach, sending him reeling back. His eyes widened in shock, he couldn't even track the motion. It felt as if he were punched with 5 strikes to his stomach. Up in the stand, Genshin smirked. He was amazed that Naruto picked up on the technique so easily. Then again, the kid seemed to have the knack for learning from actual battle data. You didn't teach him that taijutsu, did you? The red-eyed genjutsu specialist asked Genshin with a raised eyebrow. Asuma Sarutobi also raised his eyebrow. Perhaps I did. Why don't you watch the fight and see for yourselves? He smiled as he adjusted his sacket, getting comfortable. He didn't really need to watch to see it, he could hear it on the wind. The battle was becoming more intense in the arena though. Neji found himself being outwitted by someone younger than him. Just then he saw Naruto lift up the mask so it was resting on the side of his head. But Naruto switched to the fox mask, and made a straight rush towards Neji. Before Neji could execute his little 8 trigrams, 64 palms technique, Naruto moved to the side and out of the way. Feeling toyed with? Naruto curtly asked as he grabbed hold of Neji's arm, bringing Neji crashing down to the ground. Maybe a little like that girl you toyed with, during the preliminaries. He backed out of the way as the Hyuga once again tried to take a swing at him. Naruto smirked, seeing Neji showing signs of exhaustion. Naruto pulled out some kunai and threw them forward, hoping the Hyuga would tire himself out deflecting them. Meanwhile in the stands, Asuma looked at Genshin questioningly. Why would you teach the boy that jutsu? He isn't from your clan. He stopped when Genshin raised a hand. He knew Genshin would have some sort of witty remark. Relax. And watch, it's coming. Genshin smirked as he raised his straw hat lightly to peek. It was always interesting to watch these techniques being used. On the battlefield, Naruto lifted his fox mask, seeing his ploy had worked and Neji was too tired to attack anymore. He then created 5 shadow clones, who ran forward and kicked Neji into the air. Kiba half expected this to be the same technique that took him down. But Naruto had used body flicker to appear in midair where Neji was. Naruto then grabbed the prodigy's arms and also put his right knee in the small of his back. As the two came crashing down, the shadow clones spun around and flew upward, kicking Neji in the stomach, thus knocking the wind out of him. Their descent not finished yet, Naruto swung Neji around so he was resting over his shoulder. Naruto then landed softly on the ground and dropped Neji to the ground. He then looked to Genma, waiting for him to call it. Winner. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto rolled his shoulders and walked off the battle arena, up into the waiting area. He was a bit exhausted from that battle. It sure took a lot out of him. If the Hyuga had just a bit more stamina, he would have won the fight. But of course, back with Genshin, and the other Jonin. Genshin was receiving a look that told him to explain. Hanzo style. Height of the ancient tree is what was called that. It's my answer to front lotus and shadow of the dancing leaf. I figured Naruto could utilize it since he likes to use Kage Bunshin. I taught it to the kid cuz I don't restrict my family's techniques to my family. He smiled and got comfortable adjusting his sacket again while he enjoyed a refreshing dango. Meanwhile with the Hokage, and the Kage there was much surprise since Naruto was exceptionally talented. It showed much promise for future rounds of the competition. But the Kage smirked under the veil, for in truth it was truly Orochimaru. Very good Naruto-kun, you become stronger every time I see you. Now you will help deliver Sasuke-kun to me when he sees just how talented you are. He will be mine. His thoughts on his own ambitions. Tayuya on the other hand, while in her disguise as a bodyguard, couldn't quite understand. Why did Naruto join the Leaf? Though he hated them, she thought she understood him. In that moment the girl with the mouth of a sailor felt as if she had been betrayed by someone she cared about. Naruto-kun, why? Her thoughts were solely on the boy. As he walked up to the waiting area, she would find out why he changed allegiances if she had to beat it out of him. The next match will be between Subaku no Gaara and Sasuke Uchiha. Since Sasuke hasn't arrived yet, that means he has. Before he could disqualify Sasuke, Rado landed beside him and informed him of the Hokage's decision. The match shall be postponed, so will Shino Aburame and Subaku no Kankuro report to the arena. I forfeit. So please carry on. The puppet master was up to something, Naruto could tell. He could see Shino was watching Kankuro suspiciously since it seemed strange. Naruto could see the Sand siblings were up to something. Then will Subaku no Tamari and Shikamaru Nara please come down for the next match? The two walked down into the arena, but Naruto could tell by how Tamari was acting something was off. Haku, I have no idea what's going down, but people seem to be buying time. Naruto looked over to Gaara, who was acting stranger than usual. Naruto was noticing that Gaara was talking to himself. This was just disturbing. Naruto then watched as Shikamaru and Temari's fight went along. He was amazed by the strategic abilities of Shikamaru played out. Naruto found himself respecting this kid since he showed the ability to think things out with caution. But Naruto was shocked when Shikamaru said he gave up, right when he had Tamari right where he wanted her. Well, this sure is an unexpected change of events. The blonde quietly spoke. Haku gasped when she saw Naruto leap over the railing. Naruto of course waited until the winner was declared. Naruto walked over to Shikamaru and looked at him somewhat sternly. He then offered his hand to Shikamaru, and smiled genuinely. You did a good job. He then helped the Nara boy to his feet. He held new respect for Shikamaru, before he just pegged the boy to be a lazy. Thanks, man, I just don't get why I have to fight so many troublesome women. The boy was shocked when Naruto flicked his forehead. He rubbed his forehead and glared at Naruto. What was that for? For insulting kin? She isn't that troublesome. We should probably get off the arena floor before the next match starts. The two then began to walk away, and in a swirl of dust and leaves there was the late arrival. Sasuke and Kakashi seemed to make a late arrival for show. I'm sorry, it seems we're a little bit late. Exactly how late are we? You see, we were on our way back and a black cat crossed our path, and we decided to go the other way around. Kakashi was quick to try his lame excuses, then he saw no one present was buying it. I was about to disqualify your student. You're lucky the Hokage postponed the match. Now would Subaku no Gaara please step down to the arena so we can begin the match? Genma somehow always managed to talk without swallowing the senbon that always hung out of his mouth. Naruto and Shikamaru headed up to the stands since it might be a while before the next round. Tamari had already returned to the waiting area. Kakashi had used the body flicker technique to teleport up to the stands where to his shock was Genshin Hanzo. When did you get back, Genshin? He kept his one-eyed gaze down on the Shoei Jonin. It was known throughout the village that Kakashi and Mega-Guy were rivals, but there was a third rival in the rivalry. Genshin Hanzo. Yet Genshin beat Kakashi and Guy on contests to see who could drink more, and who could get the most dates. Guy always lost those competitions since women were terrified of him. Long enough, and it seems you still don't know how to make good excuses, like I have room to talk, Genshin smirked as he caught a glare from Kurenai. Kakashi saw this and simply smirked under his mask. That's when the fight began. The crowd was in suspense when they saw the Uchiha prodigy being kept at bay. The crowd became suspenseful when Gaara surrounded himself with sand forming a ball. Naruto kept his eye on the fight as he walked up to where Kakashi and the others were gathered. You better cancel the fight, Kakashi. I remember hearing about this and it won't end well for Sasuke. Oh, I think Sasuke can handle it. Just watch. The cycloptic Jonin smiled under his mask. Naruto watched in shock as Sasuke was barreling forward before slamming the Chidori he had formed into the sand sphere. The crowd reeled back when they heard Gaara screaming in agony. Unbeknownst to the majority of the onlookers, a genjutsu began to fall over all of them. The Jonin instinctively released its effects over them, as did Naruto and Sakura. That's when explosions went off and the attack began as numerous sound and sand ninja flooded the area. The snake is making his move, Naruto muttered unaware as a sound ninja was coming up behind him. He was shocked to see Guy rush and take down the ninja while breaking a hole in the wall using immense strength. Naruto looked at the arena to see that Sasuke was gone. Alright, listen up. This is the first ranked mission since the Land of Waves. You are to catch up with Sasuke, and see to it he doesn't fall into enemy hands. The cycloptic Jonin then used his summoning technique to summon Pakun. Pakun shall lead the way. Good luck. Naruto, be careful and don't overdo it. You will need to be careful, you are an enemy to all of Otogakure now. Genshin smirked at the boy, and that's when a sound ninja kicked the hat off the Jonin's head. Hi, Genshin-sensei. Naruto then used his summoning technique to call out one of the lesser wolf summons. A wolf covered in samurai armor appeared. It was a large wolf, large enough for someone to ride on. Naruto, you called for me. The wolf turned his head to look at Naruto. Yes, Susanoo. We have to catch up to someone, so we need you to help us get there fast. Shikamaru, Sakura, get on his back. Naruto commanded quickly and jumped out of the opening and ran into the forest, leaping into the trees. Shikamaru and Sakura soon followed while on the wolf named Susanoo. Pakun was of course in tow while on the wolf. Genshin, was it really necessary to do that to the sound ninja? Kakashi asked as he saw a sound ninja pinned to a wall by a kunai in a very, very painful place. A kunai through the groin. Talk about very, very painful. What do you expect, Kakashi? The prick touched the sacket. No one touches my hat. Except maybe a few ladies. The Shoei Jonin smirked as he threw a few kunai and took down a few sound ninja. The Jonin picked up his hat and put it on. In the forest, we're being followed, the small dog spoke, catching them off guard since they didn't expect for the summoned dog to speak. Then again, he is a dog summon. By 7, no 8. The team continued on ahead. Susanoo snarled slightly, wanting the chance to rip apart the pursuers, but he had to wait until the one who summoned him said so. It could wait because Naruto was more focused on following this mission through, as it was the best way to prove that this was now his home. Let's try to lose them then. The pink-haired Kunoichi suggested, but Naruto shook his head. He knew it wouldn't work since he had intimate knowledge of the way these sound ninja worked. We need to take them down. I should pull back and take these guys down. I still have plenty of chakra, so it shouldn't be that hard. Naruto narrowed his eyes. He could feel the killing intent in the air. The sound ninja were after him, even though he probably could take them by summoning another wolf Bishamontan. Unlike the ape or toad summons, you didn't necessarily have to call on the boss for your needs. No, not yet Naruto, that won't work, we got to try and lose them first, Shikamaru lazily said as the group continued on ahead. He could clearly see that Naruto was thinking, but his strategy needed some work. We have to gauge their strength, got it? Fine, but we can't afford to lose time. Gaara isn't acting normal. With that said, Sakura and Shikamaru began to look at Naruto with doubt of his loyalties. He only just joined the village as a shinobi, but why would the Hokage make a traitor of another village part of this village? You seem to know a lot about the people attacking, Sakura spoke in a suspicious tone as she pulled a kunai out and leapt forward, pinning Naruto to the tree with an accusing look in her eye. Knock it off, Sakura. If he was helping the Oto, and Suna ninja, he would have struck by now, so knock it off, this isn't the time. Shikamaru quickly warned the girl. He seemed to have a no-nonsense approach to what was happening. This wasn't the time for senseless fighting. Naruto, not having time for this, grabbed hold of the girl and laid her over his shoulder and began leaping ahead. Which way do we go, Pakun? We should keep going straight ahead. If we can fake them out, it should be clear sailing. The small dog said. He kept in the lead, making sure he kept tracking Sasuke. They kept running through the treetops for a good minutes, but it didn't look like the enemies were going to relent. Looks like we need to divert them. Someone needs to stay behind though. The young tactical genius calmly spoke. He saw the shocked look on Sakura's face. Naruto of course remained calm. I'll do I. Naruto began but was instantly cut off by Shikamaru. I gotta do it. Naruto, you have more chakra, and you know Gaara better than us, so that gives you a tactical advantage. And Sakura, you might need to treat Sasuke's injuries if he has any. As troublesome as it is, I can buy you two enough time. With that, Shikamaru surprisingly jumped off the wolf's back before the two could argue with him. Naruto could only understand that this was a situation that couldn't be avoided. Shikamaru. The pink-haired girl screamed out, but Naruto jumped onto Susanoo's back and didn't stop. He was exposed to the harsher side of shinobi life, unlike this girl. We have to stop Naruto. He can't fight anymore. Shut up. Naruto coldly spoke. He knew the risks of a mission of this rank. He leaned forward and looked ahead, his eyes watching the forest up ahead. Remember those cards that Kabuto showed you before the exams began? That isn't even half the story, so shut up. You're a ninja, so grow up and act like it. Sakura's eyes opened widely. Then she remembered that before the exams began, Kabuto had those information cards. Now I remember the cards. Her thoughts were troubled now. Flashback to before the exams started. Can you show me information about two people? Subaku no Gaara and Naruto Uzumaki. The Uchiha prodigy wanted to size up his competition, it would seem. But of course, just one moment. Kabuto smiled softly as he set two cards down and poured chakra into the first, which displayed all of Gaara's information. Okay, first is Subaku no Gaara. His mission history is 8C ranked and 1B ranked. That's pretty impressive for being a genin. But as he is a newcomer from a foreign land, I have little information on him, but he has returned from all of his missions unscathed. Kabuto poured chakra into the second card, and it displayed Naruto's information. The Uchiha prodigy was shocked when he saw the mission history. Naruto is prodigy of Otogakure, it would seem. Says here he has completed 10C ranked, 4B ranked, and 2A ranked missions. He seems to be a bit more impressive than Gaara. According to the information I have gathered from word of mouth, he was trained by the Otokage. Back in the present, Naruto Uzumaki, you are hiding behind a mask. Sakura could tell that there was something different about Naruto. Something about him told her he wasn't what he appeared to be. Susanoo. We better step up the speed, we have lost some valuable time. Naruto reached down and picked up Pakun, so they could move a little bit swifter. You just keep directing us, Pakun, we need to catch up. Back at the stadium, Genshin. Kakashi looked about the arena. First Asuma is gone, now Genshin. This wasn't going to end well. Now within the annals of Konohagakure's history there have been many ninja that became traitors. Or in some cases were Nuke Nin, Shirotoku Kanshisha, and Kuroken Satsujin. 2S rank Nuke Nin of infamy similar to Itachi. Kakashi then knew what was happening, another case of unfinished business. Genshin, you better be careful, those two nearly killed you last time. Kakashi momentarily thought before dispatching another two-sound ninja. Back in the forest. We have to move around. There is a fight up ahead, a big one. We want to avoid being caught up in this one. Naruto nodded at Pakun's words and nudged Susanoo to begin going around the battle area. Who is fighting? Sakura curiously as she sat behind Naruto on the back of the wolf. She couldn't make out the shadows in the canopy of the forest. She covered her ears to shelter them from exploding tags going off. Whoever they have to be at least Jonin level. Think about it later, Pinky. We have to catch up to your angsty nihilist. Naruto growled his words out as he held on to the wolf tightly. The wolf sped up as it jumped from branch to branch. The battle area. My, you've grown weak, Genshin. You really should have joined Orochimaru like we did, he made us better. A man with black hair, he wore flowing black robes with the black half of the yin-yang on the sleeves and on the back spoke coldly as he perched on the top of a tree. Genshin glared and used his Kekkei Genkei and from his palms two kunai were produced. Oh, it seems our wayward comrade wants to play Shirotoku. Is that so, little brother? Do you want to play? Called a second man who had white hair. He wore long flowing robes white with the white half of the yin-yang on the back and on the sleeves. Ice element. Diamond prison. Soon numerous bars of ice extended forward darting for Genshin. Genshin tossed the kunai directly at the two not wanting to be captured so easily. Metal element. Demonic Muramasa. He writhed for a moment clutching his shoulder as he pulled a long sword out of his upper left arm. He then held it tightly in his hand and smirked as he swung it diagonally cutting apart the bars of hard ice. Your parlor tricks won't work on me this time. They won't. What if we're just toying with you, brother? The dark-haired one smirked as he appeared behind Genshin grabbing him by the back of the neck. Genshin was caught completely off guard as he was thrown downward, his body crashing through every branch on the way down. He has given us power that we would never attain through hard work. The two jumped down to the ground ready to strike and finish off Genshin, that when the henge dissipated and they found it was a substitution. And attached to it was an exploding tag which was about to go off. In a fiery explosion the Nuke Nin were sent flying by the force of the explosion skidding across the ground. You didn't honestly think I would fall for the same trick? Genshin stood on a high branch and tipped his sacket upward. Get up and stop fakin', that didn't hurt you too. He then looked seriously as he stood confidently on the branch holding the sword tightly in his hand. You're right, Shin no Kage Heiki. Kuroken spoke with great aggression as he reached into his shadow pulling out a serrated Kusari Gama. He began spinning the chain scythe about as he began to walk forward watching Genshin intently. Hyoton. Daiyamondo Tun Bogiri. Shirotoku formed a spear comprised of his unique diamond strength ice. He then charged forward leaping into the tree thrusting the spear forward driving Genshin off the branch. Genshin jumped to a higher branch still holding the sword tightly in his hand. From the side Kuroken flew towards Genshin and threw the scythe at him. Genshin was slashed across the chest, but to Kuroken's surprise it turned into a substitution with an exploding tag attached to it. Kuroken was sent flying by the force of this explosion and hit a tree extremely hard. Before he could get up, Genshin flew forward and pierced Kuroken's shoulder with the Muramasa and forced him to be stuck to the tree. Hanzo style. Celestial Wolf Fist. He then unleashed a flurry of 5 punches, striking Kuroken across the chest 5 times, but then jumped back as Kuroken's body cracked, seeing 2 exploding tags appear. He was sent flying off into the distance as a great explosion went off. Ice Element. Diamond Prison. Before Genshin could get away, he was trapped in the prison. As the two approached, they laughed in enjoyment to see they had captured their former friend. Who gets to kill him? Shirotoku's voice was devoid of any emotions, it just seemed to be sickening as he spoke, but just then both were pulled underground. Genshin within the prison of ice turned out to be a substitution which was covered in exploding tags. The tags exploded, causing the prison to shatter and sent several shards of ice towards the two trapped in the ground, who in turn turned out to be substitutions. Are we done dancing? 'Cause ya know I don't dance with dudes. The three stood perched atop the trees ready to start fighting each other seriously now. Genshin smirked and flipped backward as numerous exploding tags went off, causing the general area they were in to explode in a chain. Genshin rode the force of the explosion to get away. Not today. I will avenge my sensei's murder some other day. He coughed lightly after he hit the ground hard. He then bit his thumb and went through the hand seals to summon and slammed his hand to the ground, summoning a golden-furred wolf. On the wolf's back was a shining gold disc. He grabbed hold of the disc and coughed some more. Run, Amaterasu, take me back to the village. The wolf ran off at high speed, heading back to the village with Genshin riding on her back. But in the blast zone, the two he was fighting stood unscathed due to the intervention of Shirotoku's Kekkei Genkei. Run, little brother, we will find you later, and send you to join sensei. Shirotoku smirked before laughing in enjoyment of the promise of killing Genshin. We did our job, let's go. Orochimaru promised if we divert the catalyst, and kept the womanizer busy, we could play with some leaves. Kuroken spoke with a sadistic tone before laughing in a twisted manner that could make anyone's skin crawl. The two jumped up and bound from branch to branch, heading back to the village. Back with Naruto. Genshin sensei, I hope you are alright. Naruto looked concerned due to the massive explosion that just went off. He didn't know what was going on, but they had to hurry up and catch up to Sasuke. To the left, Naruto could make out another fight going on between Shino and Kankuro. This was getting more interesting the further they went. What do you have against Sasuke-kun anyway? It's not like you know him. Sakura asked quietly. She didn't get why Naruto had something against Sasuke, it made no sense to her. I simply can't stand guys like him. He's nothing but a crybaby. He acts like he's the only one with a shitty life. What, just because he's an overhyped Uchiha it makes him more special? Before I left this village, I was beaten, and nearly killed over 1,000 times by the time I was 8, but you don't see me taking it out on people who care about me. The past is the past, you have to make the future the best you can. Naruto spoke almost harshly, his words laced with malice and hatred. By the time he was a genin, I had already killed people. I was accepted in Otogakure, but I was still denied something, my childhood. So do excuse me when I say Sasuke needs to grow the up. Shit happens and you learn to move on. Sakura looked wide-eyed, seeing a darker side to the smiling blonde. She had never expected him to be like this. She simply thought he was a clown, but she now saw under the mask that he wore. Now we have to hurry. Gaara is unstable and he might kill Sasuke. When that was said, Susanoo sped up his pace. Sakura was shocked by this and almost fell off the wolf, but Naruto grabbed her arm so she wouldn't fall. Hold on to me. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Sasuke is fighting someone, or should I say something, and it's not human, the small dog commented as they neared where Sasuke was. That's when they saw it, an injured Sasuke laying on the ground severely injured. Sasuke-kun, Sakura called out as she hopped off the wolf to try and rush to his aid. Naruto quickly grabbed her by the arm and pushed her to a tree. He looked at her with a look that could stop a charging bull. Naruto, why? Look at Gaara, he will kill you if you get too close. Listen to me and stay back, I can take care of this, trust me. He then leapt to the ground and picked up the injured Sasuke and jumped back, and set him down beside Sakura. Now, it's time for this monster to face another monster. Sakura watched in shock seeing the blonde ninja bound about the trees slinking to where Temari was. What is he doing? She's the enemy. Her thoughts were troubled since it was unusual to help an enemy. And what's more, he brought her over, sat her down on the branch. What in the world was going through his head? Naruto, I've been waiting to kill you. Gaara spoke a beastly manner. He stood atop a branch halfway transformed. He was waiting for Naruto to strike, but he wasn't going to wait for long. He was growing impatient. He felt the need to kill someone, or rather something. That's when Naruto began to exude the red chakra, and tails of chakra surrounded him. He vaulted from the branch, flew at Gaara, punching him square in the nose. How dare you! You put Temari-chan in danger. Naruto was exhibiting strong anger. He jumped out of the way as the transformed arm swung towards him. The large arm came swinging again, throwing Naruto into the air. He then rushed towards Naruto, trying to grab hold of him. Naruto can't possibly win. Gaara is too strong. Temari was on the verge of tears. She knew Gaara was extremely strong right now, but the transformation wasn't complete. Her eyes widened just that moment as she saw Gaara slam Naruto to the ground, just before throwing his transformed hand towards where she and the other two were. He tightened his hold around them all, seeing to it that he would asphyxiate them. Help me feel alive. The Shukaku container spoke with pure blood-lusting insanity as he tightened. He then roared out loudly as Naruto came down and spun, cutting into the transformed arm with the sword of Kusanagi. This is different. It's more thrilling to kill someone that's stronger than me, so I shall kill you. Gaara began to laugh in a sickening manner. Then come get me, Shukaku. Naruto called out, sheathing his sword before he jumped into the branches of the trees, apparently running away. In fact, he was luring Gaara further away from the three who couldn't do any fighting. Gaara took two hostages, Temari and Sakura. He needed to have collateral to make Naruto fight him to his fullest. Naruto remembered his training with Genshin on wolf summons and what each wolf can do. He knew he would have to utilize all of his training. If he wanted to survive this, he couldn't use the techniques that he learned from Jiraiya and Genshin yet. He had trouble with them still. He couldn't count on them just yet, so it would be taijutsu and what he knows already. Flash back to training. Now Naruto, the wolf summons each have a unique set of talents. Just like King Enma becomes a staff, the wolves each have forms. Susanoo becomes leg armor, Amaterasu becomes torso armor, and Tsukuyomi becomes a helmet. Now keep this in mind. The boss summon Fenrir the Wolf King does not transform. His size increases, but only call him if you really need him. They call him the god-killing wolf for a reason. Genshin spoke sagely as he adjusted his hat, his eyes drifting off into the horizon before smiling cheekily. But he doesn't mind if you use him for smaller tasks just as long as it's worth his time. Back in the present, Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto slammed his hand onto a tree branch, summoning a red wolf carrying numerous blades on his back. His body was covered in scars. He was also clad in samurai armor. Naruto-sama, you called. The wolf snarled out as he stood beside the boy. He saw the boy pulling the fox mask down over his face and knew what was going down. So that's it, trouble. Great storehouse technique. The wolf transformed into a giant club in the shape of pagoda. Naruto tightly gripped the handle. That's when Gaara's hulking form appeared in a fully transformed state with Temari and Sakura trapped within his shoulders. If you want to save them, you have to defeat me, otherwise they will die, they will be crushed. Naruto glared. He had to be careful now, he didn't want to hurt either of them. Gaara and I aren't so different, he was like me, he was hated by the villagers of his village. They feared him. I was fortunate, even though I was deceived into think Otogakure would offer me what I needed, I still met people that care about me. Kin, Haku, Kakashi, Sarutobi, Genshin Sensei, Jiraiya Sensei, those girls who are stalking me, and Tayuya-chan, I have somewhere I belong. But you had to deal with the same problems I did, I have to stop you though. Gaara. Naruto's thoughts about how things have changed for him helped him steel his resolve, and he rushed forward and swung the club, knocking the transformed Gaara in the leg, but the sand making up the body grabbed hold of the club and Bishamon reverted to his normal state to escape. No good, Naruto-sama, you might have to try something else. Naruto then proceeded to use the return of summon jutsu, sending his two summons back. Naruto jumped about from branch to branch trying to avoid the rage of Gaara. Trees were continually being destroyed, and Naruto kept out of the way. This of course was causing him to use up chakra. Naruto prepared a kunai and jumped to branch above and created 4 shadow clones. The clones ran forth to run interference. Naruto used this time to prepare the kunai with an exploding tag. He jumped about using his speed and agility to get behind Gaara. He thought that tail looked mighty convenient and charged for it. 1,000 years of death. He called out as he stabbed the kunai deep at the base of the tail. But he was then hit by a strong punch from the Shukaku which sent him sailing. As he went flying, he was caught by Sasuke, who looked unamused. The exploding tag went off shortly after this, causing Gaara to be heavily damaged. This is my fight, stay out of it. Sasuke's cold demeanor was leaking through, but he was quickly silenced by Naruto standing up and grabbing him by the collar of his shirt. Look here, you whiny bitch. I don't know if you care, but Sakura and Temari are being held prisoner in his shoulders and their lives are on the line. I for one won't forsake them. He then shoved the raven-haired boy and ran off, moving back to where Gaara was. He then created several shadow clones using a vast amount of his chakra to do so. It's time for the real show to begin, and when I'm done, they will have to start the Naruto Uzumaki scrolls. Sasuke looked on in shock. This kid was no older than he was and he could create this many shadow clones. Who the hell are you? You're too strong to be a genin. Maybe you got this strength from Orochimaru. Sasuke's thoughts were growing more and more injured. He had always thought he was the best. Then this kid shows up and proves to be a more capable ninja. Just who the hell was he? Let's start this off with something I just made up. Uzumaki-style Kenjutsu, Hurricane Blade. Naruto's clones all rushed forward and struck Gaara's chest and stomach with their blades, destroying some of the sand-composed body. The clones readied their swords for another run, and Naruto smirked as he dropped from above, cutting into Gaara's left shoulder, allowing him to free Temari. He picked her up, resting her over his left shoulder. He then jumped off to find a place to put her for her own safety.